In this video, I am going to discuss about the topic electronegativity. But before actually going into the real concept of electronegativity, let's try to understand what the picture is trying to explain. In the picture, you can see that there are two boys who are fighting for a toy. Both of them want to get control over the toy. But in the picture itself, it is 100% visible that the boy on the right side is putting in all of his effort, but the toy is closer towards the boy on the left. So what is seen in the picture? The two boys are fighting for the toy, but the boy on the left is having greater control over the toy than the boy on the right. Something similar happens in an atom also when two dissimilar atoms are involved in a bond, particularly covalent bond. Like it could be between nitrogen and oxygen, it could be between sulfur and oxygen, it could be between hydrogen and chlorine. Any two dissimilar atoms, meaning any two atoms of different elements, not the same element. If there are two atoms of different elements, they will be always involved in a tug of war, wherein both of them will be in a fight to get control over the bonded pair of electrons between their nuclei. But in the fight, the bonded pair of electrons will be always closer towards the more electronegative atom, the more greedy atom. So that's the concept for today, electronegativity. So what is electronegativity? Electronegativity is the ability of an atom to attract the bonded pair of electrons closer towards itself. You can see here these two atoms are in the tug of war for getting this pair of electrons closer towards them. But whoever is the stronger one will be getting greater control over the electrons when compared to the weaker one. So, in other words, in simple language, we can say that the greedy atom will be having greater control over the bonded electrons than the less greedy one. So, it's always the more greedy atom we will call as the electronegative atom, and the one who is a partial loser. When I'm saying partial loser, it doesn't mean that it is withdrawing from the war. As long as the molecule is existing, even if it is not able to win the fight, the weaker one will always be struggling to get back the electron density closer towards itself. Being weak, the stronger one will have greater control. So now let's see what are the factors that will be affecting the electronegativity of an atom. The first one is the size of an atom. In order to understand how size of an atom is influencing the electronegativity, let's try to understand it with a simple example of our mobile phones itself. So in this diagram, you can see the mobile tower. This is the mobile. You have the practical experience that from your practical experience, you know that as you move away from the tower, the signal strength will go down. When you are in a remote area, your mobile will be having weak signal. You will not be able to make proper calls with it. Why? Because the tower is very far away, the signals are not getting communicated. That's exactly what is happening in an atom also. As far as an atom is concerned, it is the nucleus of an atom with protons, with positive protons that will be trying to exert a control up till the valence electrons. So, if the nucleus is buried deep inside, obviously it will not be able to have its effective pull on the valence electrons, up till the valence electrons. That's what you can see in these two diagrams. In this diagram, the atomic size is very small. So what happens? Being a small atom, the nucleus is able to exert its pull beyond its valence electron and able to get control over the bonded pair. But here, the atom being bigger in size, its nucleus is deep buried inside. So what happens? It will not be able to exert a strong influence on the valence electrons as well as the bonded pair of electrons. Obviously, when the size of the atom is small, greater will be its electronegativity. If the size is bigger, lesser will be the electronegativity. Now let's see what is the next factor that affects electronegativity. The next factor that affects electronegativity is the effective nuclear charge. Now, what is the meaning of effective nuclear charge? In order to understand this concept, again let's take the example of our mobile itself. Here you can see that this person is using the mobile outside the home. So what happens? There is no barrier between the tower and the mobile. He is able to get proper range. He is able to use the mobile with full signal strength because there is no barrier. That's the point. When there is no barrier, the mobile will be getting proper signal strength. What is the situation when you're getting inside? There will be the walls that will be blocking the communication of signals between the mobile and the tower. When there is a barrier caused by the wall or a shielding caused by the wall, we will not be able to get proper signal strength for our mobile, and there will be problem in making calls. There will be problem in getting connected with the network. Same thing is valid in an atom also. Now let's see what happens in an atom. How effective nuclear charge is influencing the electronegativity of an atom. So in order to understand this, let's try to understand the situation with the help of this diagram. Here you can see the nucleus. This represents the inner electron and this one represents the outer electron. So as it is visible, the nucleus doesn't have any partiality for the inner or the outer electrons. It's trying to attract all the electrons closer towards itself with all its strength. But the problem is the distance is a barrier. These are electrons. The inner ones are electrons, outer ones are also electrons, and all electrons are negative. We know negative charges repel each other. So what happens? Even if the nucleus is trying to attract the outer electrons, the valence electrons, the bonded electrons closer towards itself, the inner electrons will be causing a repulsive interactions. They will be trying to repel the outer electrons away from the nucleus. So in other words, we can say that the inner electrons causes a shielding for the outer electrons so that the effectiveness with which the nucleus is able to have a control over the valence electrons or the bonded electrons gets greatly reduced. And this is the concept of effective nuclear charge. What is it? Nucleus is trying to get a control over the nucleus is trying to get control up till the valence electrons, but the inner ones are not allowing the nucleus to do so. They will be giving a wrapping. They will be forming a barrier. So, if the effective nuclear charge gets reduced, nucleus will not be able to attract the valence electrons and the bonded electrons. Obviously, the electronegativity decreases. So how is electronegativity connected with effective nuclear charge? As the effective nuclear charge decreases or shielding from the inner electrons increases, the electronegativity of the atom also will get greatly reduced. So now a quick recap of both the factors. One was size, the other one was effective nuclear charge. As far as size is concerned, as the atom gets bigger, size gets bigger, radius is increasing, electronegativity will be going down. Opposite is the case with effective nuclear charge. As effective nuclear charge gets reduced, opposite is the case with effective nuclear charge. As effective nuclear charge gets reduced, electronegativity will be decreasing. In a way, size and effective nuclear charge are interconnected. How? As the size is increasing, effective nuclear charge gets reduced and electronegativity will be decreasing. To understand the trend in electronegativity from top to bottom, that means in a vertical column as well as from left to right across a period. So here we are going to see what is going to be the variation in electronegativity. Will it increase? Will it decrease? Will it remain the same across a period as well as down the group? First, we will see what is the trend down the group. So here we will be seeing what is the trend down the group. So it's clearly visible when you're moving down the group, the number of shells are increasing. So when the number of shells are increasing, what happens? These shells are actually having electrons on them. When these electrons will be actually causing a shielding. When the shielding is there, the effectiveness with which the nucleus is able to have the control over the valence electrons or the bonded pair of electrons will be getting reduced. Obviously, electronegativity gets reduced. So what's it? As we move down the group, number of shells increases, effective nuclear charge decreases, and electronegativity also decreases. So summarizing again, as we move down the group, size or the radius of the atom increases. So when there is an increase in size, its effective nuclear charge will be greatly getting reduced. As a result, ability to pull the bonded pair of electrons also will be reduced, or electronegativity will be decreasing. Now let's see what is going to be the trend across a period. As far as atoms in a period is concerned, all of them will be having the same number of shells. So when there are the same number of shells, we might be thinking that when there are same number of shells, you might be thinking that okay, the effective nuclear charge will also remain the same. No. When you're moving from left to right, there's a gradual increase in the number of electrons outside, as well as there is an increase in the number of protons inside the nucleus. So what happens? These electrons which are increasing from left to right in a period are getting added to the same shell, meaning all these electrons are at the same distance from the nucleus. Obviously, what happens when there is an increase in the proton count inside the nucleus, there will be a greater extent of pull on the electrons. It might be the valence electrons, it might be the bonded pair of electrons. The shell number is not increasing, meaning there is not much increase in shielding. That is the reason why when you're moving from left to right, the size is getting reduced. When the size is getting reduced, the effective nuclear charge will be greatly increasing. So effective nuclear charge is increasing means electronegativity also will be increasing from left to right across a period. Quick recap. From left to right, the size or the radius of the atom decreases since electrons are getting added in the same shell. So effective nuclear charge is greatly increased. When that increases, electronegativity or the pull on the valence electrons as well as on the bonded pair of electrons. Electronegativity is concerned not with the valence electrons, it's concerned with the bonded pair of electrons. The pull on the bonded pair of electrons will be greatly increasing and electronegativity also will be increasing. Now let's try to find the trend of electronegativity taking the entire periodic table. Before seeing the trend in the electronegativity, we will have to think about the size. Down, size is increasing. From left to right, size is decreasing. Two important points. Down it is increasing down the group, decreasing from left to right. That is regarding size. So obviously electronegativity will be decreasing down the group and it will be increasing from left to right. So when we are saying left to right, we are actually not considering the noble gases. Why not noble gases? They are already having stable octet configuration. They don't want any more electrons. They are happy with what they are having. So as far as electronegativity is concerned, the highest electronegative atom in the complete periodic table will be fluorine. there is no other element in the periodic table which will be more electronegative than fluorine. So if fluorine is the most electronegative atom having smallest size, obviously the one opposite to it at this end will be the least electronegative. So that's all for now in this video. Thank you.